Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. Before we get things started off, just want to let you guys know to stick around until the end of the episode for a special announcement. Hey everybody out there, welcome to BTP Live. If you're hearing my voice, that means you survived for another episode of this podcast. How you doing out there? I'm Alonso Garcia. Joining me today is Angelo Casimo. Ange, how you doing today?
Hey, doing well. How are you doing?
Can't complain. Just keeping up on all the latest FMCSA regulation changes that are going to be coming up soon.
That's what we like to do, isn't it?
Well, we don't like it, but we do it.
Well, maybe call it fun. I don't know.
I'm not here to tell any lies.
Oh, boy. So I think today we're going to get into the world of hours of service. How exciting is that?
Oh, it's the funnest part of safety and compliance is getting to look at everybody's logbooks all the time and see who's doing the right thing and who's doing the wrong thing. But the important part about hours of service is making sure that our logbooks are looking good when we get pulled over into weigh stations or roadside inspections.
Hey, a question for you. So with our hours of service, where do we see most of our areas of opportunity?
Definitely logbook certifications. We've recently made changes to the way we do our logbooks, hopefully making it easier for our fleet out there. We went from a midnight to midnight logbook. Everything now, for the majority of our fleet, should be noon to noon. And tell them what that means.
Well, so did you ever wonder how we got to that midnight to midnight logbook versus a noon to noon?
No, I never wondered it because I just assumed that the standard practice was midnight to midnight.
So the short story is this. Back in the day of paper logbooks, you would get a one-page logbook, right, for your hours of duty. And it was a piece of paper, and it literally just logged all 24 hours. So it started at midnight, and especially if you went military time, right? You know, you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 12 and all the way to 24. And so it went that way. Very few people realize that you can run your logbook noon to noon instead of midnight to midnight. And the only difference is for a fleet like us, which I don't know, 75-ish% of our fleet, plus or minus, deploys in the afternoon, right?
Yep.
So if we're running midnight to midnight and you certify your logs as soon as you start your shift. So let's say you're a driver, you come in at 4 p.m. And you go ahead and certify your logs and you start driving. Technically what's happening at midnight, you could still be driving, right? And that's a new day. Your logbook page is over. You have to certify again at your very first stop after midnight. And so if a driver completes their shift, let's say they get back to the DC at 3 a.m., I'm just making stuff up, and they don't certify their logs anywhere between midnight and 3, let's say they stopped and grabbed a cup of coffee, they're technically in violation. And we see that those logbook certifications is something that we struggled with for a little while. So we moved our logbooks for most of our drivers to a noon to noon process. So that means you're starting at noon and you're good till noon the next day. So if you came in at 4 p.m. and certified your logs, you're fine until noon the next day, which theoretically for the majority of our drivers, they start work afternoon. When they come in and certify again, they're good. So this should help us avoid some of those logbook violations. But I think we're going to have a couple guests on the show today. I'll let you introduce them, and they're going to give us the skinny on logbooks. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. This podcast, we have two special guests joining us, and they go by the names of Amanda and Isaac, and they're going to go into a deep dive on the hours of service.
Ooh, I know those guys. I can't wait to hear about it. All right, cool. If we hand it over to them?
Yep.
Hey, stick around to the end because we've got a special quiz for you here. See if anybody can pick up on it. Something funny. We'll keep it light today.
And I promise we'll give something away.
All right, there we go.
Today, we're really getting into something super important in the commercial transport world.
Mm-hmm.
Hours of service rules.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for C&V operators here in the U.S.
Right, HOS. It's critical stuff.
We've got this really comprehensive guide, and we're going to use it to, well, sort of unpack these regulations.
Yeah, make them a bit clearer, hopefully.
Exactly. Understand what they mean, why they matter so much for, safety and staying compliant.
And technology plays a huge part now, doesn't it? Like the ELDs.
Oh, definitely. Electronic logging devices. We'll touch on how essential those are. So our mission today,
Get a good handle on the key HOS rules.
and what they mean in practice.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just dive right in. What exactly are hours of service?
Okay, so basically, HOS rules are set by the FMCSA, that's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration.
Right.
And their main goal is, well, it's about trying to reduce accidents caused by driver fatigue. Simple as that, really.
So they limit working hours for commercial drivers, the ones with a CDL.
Precisely. For operators of commercial motor vehicles, or CMVs, who need that commercial driver's license.
And what counts as a CMV? Is it just the big 18-wheelers?
Not necessarily. It's broader. Basically, any vehicle used for business, operating across state lines, or even just within one state, intrastate or interstate commerce.
Gotcha. And these rules aren't just like guidelines, are they? They're enforced.
Oh, absolutely. That's where the ELD mandate comes in. Our guide mentions it.
Right, the electronic logging devices,
Yeah.
e-logs.
Yeah. Most CMV operators have to use them now to track their hours of service. It's replaced the old paper logbooks for many.
And they're hooked up to the engine.
That's right. So they automatically record driving time. Much more accurate and reliable than paper logs ever were.
I bet. Less room for error or,
Exactly. And it's interesting, these rules aren't static. They actually updated them fairly recently, back in 2020.
Oh, yeah. What changed?
Well, the FMCSA brought in a final rule with 4 main changes. The idea was to give drivers a bit more flexibility without sacrificing safety. It's a tricky balance.
Yeah, I can imagine. Flexibility versus strict safety rules.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't follow the rules, what happens then? The guide mentions consequences.
Yeah, and they can be serious. HOS violations can really hurt a carrier's safety rating. That's a big deal.
A very big deal.
And it can even lead to getting your vehicle slapped with an out-of-service order.
Ouch. Okay, so compliance is key. Not just avoiding fines, but actual operations and safety.
Absolutely. It's fundamental. So maybe we should clarify exactly who has to follow these HOS rules. It's not just the giant trucking firms, right?
No, you're spot on there. It applies to pretty much any operator of a CMV in the U.S.
Okay.
And the definition of a CMV, for these rules anyway, it's quite specific. It's not just about who owns the truck. Our guide lays out the criteria.
Right. So what makes a vehicle a CMV in the eyes of HOS regs?
Okay, well, first off, weight. If it weighs 10,001 pounds or more, that includes the cargo, it's a CMV.
Got it. 10,001 pounds.
Also, if you're hauling hazardous materials that need a placard, that vehicle's a CMV.
Makes sense. Hazmat, serious business.
Definitely.
Mm.
Then there's passengers. If the vehicle is designed to transport 16 or more people, driver included, even if it's not for money, it counts.
Okay, like a shuttle bus, maybe?
Could be. And finally, if it transports 9 or more passengers, including the driver, for compensation. So for money, that's also a CMV.
9 or more for pay, 16 or more, even without pay. Huh.
Yeah, so you see, it covers a pretty wide range of commercial driving activities.
It really does. Okay, so we know what HOS is, who it applies to. Let's get into the real, the details, the driving limits themselves. What can and can't drivers do?
Right, this is the core of it. The HOS rules set limits for driving per day, per week, and also total time spent on duty.
On duty, not just driving time.
Exactly. On duty includes driving, but also other work-related tasks. There are a few key limits drivers and companies really need to track. Okay, let's start with the one everyone talks about, the 14-hour limit. How does that work?
All right. So, in any given workday, a driver gets a 14 consecutive hour window after coming on duty.
A 14-hour clock starts ticking.
Pretty much. And within that 14-hour window, they can drive for a maximum of 11 hours.
Okay, 11 hours driving within the 14-hour duty window.
Correct. And there's another piece. They have to take a 30-minute break after they've driven for 8 hours. Used to be 8 hours on duty, but now it's 8 hours of driving time triggering the break.
Ah, okay, so 8 driving hours means stop for 30 minutes. And how does that break get logged? Can they just, sit in the driver's seat?
Well, it has to be logged correctly. The rule says it needs to be recorded as off-duty, or time in the sleeper berth, or, interestingly, it can now be other non-driving work, too.
Oh, that's part of the flexibility changes.
That's one of them, yeah. And once that 14-hour duty window is up, that's it for work. They need at least 10 consecutive hours off duty before starting another duty period, right? 10 hours off to reset for the next day. So it's this daily cycle. You've got the 14-hour duty limit, the 11-hour driving limit inside that.
And the 30-minute break requirement.
Yeah.
They all work together. If you hit the 11 hours of driving, you stop driving for the day, even if you haven't hit the 14-hour duty limit yet.
Got it. It's like hitting whichever limit comes first.
Precisely, a double safety net. But then it goes beyond just the daily limits, right? There are weekly caps too.
Yes, the 60 and 70-hour rules, how do those function?
Okay, so a driver's total on-duty time, again, not just driving, is limited to 60 hours in any 7-day period.
Or
70 hours in any 8-day period. It depends on whether the carrier operates vehicles every day of the week.
right. And once you hit that 60 or 70-hour on-duty total?
You have to stop driving CMVs.
Oh,
You can't operate until your hours drop below the limit or until you reset your weekly clock.
Okay, and resetting, that's the 34-hour restart I've heard about.
That's the one. It lets drivers completely reset their 60 or 70-hour clocks back to zero.
How does it work?
Yeah.
Just take 34 hours off.
Basically, yes. You need at least 34 consecutive hours off duty.
And we mentioned the mandatory 30-minute break earlier. Seems like breaks are a pretty big theme here.
Oh, absolutely. Preventing that continuous driving fatigue is central. And speaking of breaks and rest, the guide also talks about the sleeper berth provision.
Right. For trucks that have a sleeper compartment, that gives drivers some options, doesn't it? Especially on longer trips.
It does. It lets them split that required 10-hour off-duty period into 2 chunks using the sleeper berth.
Okay, how does the split work? I know there are a couple of ways.
Yeah, there are 2 main options now, thanks again to those 2020 rule changes. You've got the 82 split and the 73 split.
Okay, walk me through the 82 split first.
Sure. The driver takes one period of at least 8 consecutive hours, but less than 10, resting in the sleeper berth.
Okay, 8 hours in the bunk.
Then, separately, they take another period of at least 2 consecutive hours off duty. This second part could be in the sleeper berth or just regular off-duty time outside the truck, or a mix.
Got it. 8 in the berth, 2 off duty somewhere, and the 73 split.
Similar idea, just different numbers. One period must be at least 7 consecutive hours in the sleeper berth,
Okay.
and the other period must be at least 3 consecutive hours off duty again. Could be sleeper berth time or regular off-duty time.
So 7 in the berth, 3 off duty. But how does doing this affect their main clocks, like that 14-hour duty window?
Ah, that's the key part. When a driver uses one of these splits correctly, neither of the 2 rest periods counts against their 14-hour duty window.
Oh, interesting. So it pauses the 14-hour clock.
Sort of. But here's the tricky bit. The calculation point for their next available 11 and 14 hours shifts. After they complete the second of the 2 qualifying rest periods, you look back to the end of the first rest period. That point becomes the new starting line for calculating their available hours.
Okay. That sounds a bit complex.
It can be. Essentially, you pair the 2 periods up. Once the second one is done, you recalculate from the end of the first one. The main thing is, both periods together have to add up to at least 10 hours, and one has to be at least 7 for the 73, or 8 for the 82 hours in the sleeper berth. And critically, the driving time between the 2 split periods still counts towards the 11-hour driving limit.
Right. You can't just drive indefinitely between the splits.
No way. It offers flexibility in how you take your 10 hours off, but it doesn't give you extra driving time beyond the 11-hour limit within a recalculated duty period.
Okay, that makes sense. Useful, but you still need to manage the driving limit carefully. Now, these rules seem pretty strict overall. Are there, like, exceptions? Situations where the rules bend a little?
Yes, there are definitely exemptions. Our guide covers a few important ones outlined in the federal regulations. These can affect who needs an ELD and how the driving limits apply.
Okay. Any other big exemptions? What if you get stuck in, like, a blizzard or a huge unexpected traffic jam?
Ah, yes. That's covered by the adverse driving conditions exemption.
Okay, what does that let you do?
If a driver runs into genuinely unexpected adverse conditions like sudden severe weather or maybe a major road closure they couldn't have known about.
Right, truly unforeseen stuff.
Exactly. Then they can extend their maximum driving time by up to 2 extra hours, so they could potentially drive for up to 13 hours instead of 11.
Oh, wow.
And it also allows them to extend their 14-hour duty window by up to 2 hours as well, so potentially a 16-hour day.
So it gives them time to either wait out the bad conditions safely or drive slower through them without immediately violating the rules.
Precisely. It's a safety valve for unpredictable situations on the road. It doesn't apply to just, regular rush hour traffic or foreseeable delays. Has to be unexpected.
Gotcha. That seems like a really practical rule. Okay, so with all these rules, limits, splits, exemptions, it feels like a lot to keep track of.
It absolutely is.
How do drivers and companies actually manage all this day to day and, crucially, avoid penalties?
Well, going back to what we mentioned earlier, the guide strongly points towards technology. Using a good ELD compliance system is really the best bet.
An electronic logging device.
Right. Something reliable and ideally user-friendly.
So the ELD itself does the heavy lifting of tracking the time?
Largely, yes.
Yeah.
It logs driving time automatically, and drivers just need to manage their duty status changes, like going from driving to on duty, not driving, or going off duty.
And how does that help the driver and maybe the manager back at the office stay compliant?
Well, these systems usually come with an app for the driver. That app gives the driver real-time visibility. They can see exactly what their current duty status is, how much driving time they have left before they hit a limit, when their next break is due.
So it puts the info right in their hands.
Exactly. And then for the fleet managers or dispatchers, there's usually a dashboard view. They can see the status of all their drivers.
Like an overview.
Yeah, they can see who's driving, who's nearing a break requirement, who might be close to hitting their daily or weekly limits. Some systems will even flag potential violations before they happen.
Proactive alerts. That sounds useful.
Extremely. It allows a manager to maybe call the driver or adjust a route or schedule before a violation actually occurs. It helps catch things early.
Yeah, it really sounds like a massive improvement over trying to track all this manually with paper logs. Offers real-time help for everyone involved.
Definitely. It streamlines the process and massively reduces the chance of errors, which are easy to make with rules this complex.
Absolutely. So, okay, we've covered a lot of ground here on hours of service. If we were to boil it down, what's the main thing listeners should take away from this deep dive?
I think the biggest thing is just how vital understanding and sticking to these HOS rules really is. It's fundamental for safety, the driver's safety, and everyone else on the road.
Preventing fatigue-related accidents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also critical for just staying compliant, keeping that safety rating up, keeping trucks on the road. It's not just red tape. It's core to the business.
Yeah, definitely. And we went through quite a bit what HOS actually is, who it covers, those key driving limits like the 11 and 14-hour rules.
The weekly 60, 70-hour caps, the all-important rest breaks, how the sleeper berth splits work.
And those specific exemptions like adverse conditions. It's a complex web.
It really is. And hopefully for anyone listening who works in transport or is just interested in how goods get moved around, this gives a clearer picture of the logistics and the safety measures involved.
It's certainly a crucial piece of the puzzle, which kind of leads me to a final thought, something for our listeners to maybe chew on.
Okay.
Well, given how complex these rules are and how technology like ELDs has already changed things, how might future tech advancements continue to shape driver safety and maybe even efficiency in trucking? Beyond just logging hours, what comes next?
That's a really interesting question to consider. Definitely something to think about.
Thank you very much, Amanda and Isaac. Man, that was some really eye-opening stuff in there, right?
That's a lot to cover, and truth be told, there's even more than that to cover. We just didn't get into all of it because some of the hours of service stuff doesn't relate to us at Pops, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so they got into the nitty gritty for us, but I have a thorough understanding of it. Did you get the same idea?
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing new in there, but it's always good to get any kind of information, right? It's just going to refresh everybody's info on hours of service.
Oh, for sure. And if it's not, especially for somebody like me, like I don't practice it every day anymore, so it's a good refresher for me.
Yeah, it's a good refresher for everybody, and it saves everyone from getting the FMCSA regulation book that weighs approximately 3.5 pounds that is sitting on my desk right now.
That's right. And it's interesting. Hours of service carries so much more of a higher point value when you get a bad inspection than even accidents.
I know, it's incredible.
Crazy. Yeah.
We would have a lot more luck and less violations if our drivers were to, I don't know, roll their windows down and throw their ELDs.
I don't know if we say, we're going to hold that for another episode. We might have to edit that one out. But hey, listen, if you stuck around this far, forget the last 20 seconds. And I've got something I'd like to kind of pose to you guys. So I'm going to play the sound of a diesel engine. And the first one that can either email or text Alonso or I and tell us what kind of engine this is, we'll send you something good. And I'm going to give you a little hint. This is Angelo's favorite engine.
That means nothing to everyone.
Maybe one or two people. All right, I'm going to hit play here. You tell me what kind of diesel engine this is. So you either email or text Alonso or Angelo. Whoever gets in first, one person, we got something for you. So here we go. Listen up now. All right, I'm going to back that down. We'll see if anybody gets that, right? But anyways, I will hand it off to Alonso. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one, Alonso.
Guys, thank you very much if you've made it this far into the podcast. I totally appreciate you guys joining us. And until next time, keep it safe out there. Hey, you made it this far. Thank you guys very much for listening. And as promised, I do have a special message to deliver to all the drivers here. Friday, July 13th, we'll be catering food to all of the DCs at dispatch time to show our appreciation for all the hard work you've put in this year. Mostly, we are recognizing the 200 days DOT recordable accident-free and the great job that we did on the 2025 International Road Check. Made it through that thing clean as a whistle with no bad inspections. So, as our way to say thank you, we're going to get a little food delivered to all the DCs, and we hope that you appreciate it. I'll catch you guys next episode.